Well, good morning, WellHouse Church. Pastor Cullen here. Excited to be back with you, storytelling through the book of Acts. And if you've been following along with us for several weeks, we've been following this journey that Paul's been on. We begin to follow the life of Paul, and then the last several chapters have been dedicated to Paul's journey on trial. For some trumped-up charges that the Jewish Sanhedrin has brought before the Roman Empire, which Paul is a citizen of, and now he has been on this journey for multiple years through this trial, and the whole thing has been heading to him going to Rome. It's been leading to him in Rome for a trial before the emperor. And so we have multiple months, multiple years of Paul being on this journey. And that journey headed towards him being at Rome. And as we've been on that journey, we've seen at several stops along the way, the text continues to highlight that there are these believers at these places that comfort Paul. We've just come out of the island of Malta, and they were not necessarily believers right out of the gate, but the text highlights that they were unusually kind. And then Paul begins to heal them. And so there's this divine moment at the island of Malta. So as they journey through the island of Malta, there's these healing experiences. And then 3 months later, the text says they jump on another ship and they head out. After the winter, they're headed back to Rome. And they continue to travel. And once again, the text highlights that when they were in Puteoli, there they found some believers and stayed with them for 7 days. The text continues to highlight that Christians become this network of care, that they become this built-in system of liberation in these moments. Paul just continues to show up around and find Christians. And Christians are more than willing to help Paul, as we should be willing to help anyone. But these Christians in the ancient world become this network. They become this network of care. Something that I don't think I have to try to convince somebody very hard that we've lost today. In today's world, it seems the only thing we care about is ourselves. And that's a crying shame. But then they get to Rome. And the reason I highlight this is because Luke is a fantastic storyteller. Luke is a great writer. This is a great piece of literature, Luke and Acts. And so we've been leading to this moment where Paul arrives in Rome. And this is how Luke chooses to share with us his arrival. Acts 28:16. When we came into Rome, Paul was allowed to live by himself with the soldier who was guarding him. Paul was allowed to live by himself. Now, let me be very clear. I think that's a very direct historical statement. That when Paul got to Rome, they permitted him to live in a house by himself with the guard, the soldier that's watching him. But I also think that sentence tells us a very spiritual reality. A spiritual reality that says, hey, we're all on a journey. And we've all been gearing up for the next big thing in our life, the next chapter. Buying a house, getting a new job, having a child, getting married, whatever. There's always this next chapter. There's always this next thing that we're moving to in our lives. And inevitably, we're going to want community. We're going to want people around us to help us do that. And I often say that the love of God should be experienced within the people of God. And so it's not that those things are bad. In fact, they're quite good. But it doesn't negate the fact that there is always a realization that you are on this journey alone. That you are on this journey alone. You and God. And Paul has this moment when he arrives at Rome. He's had all this network of care. He's had all these people caring for him, being present with him. And then he gets where he's going. And now it's a moment where Paul realizes, hey, I'm in this on my own. That God is present with an individual on their unique journey. And as I've thought and pondered this and prayed all week long, I didn't know what I was going to storytell this week. I had no idea. I mean, this is not great preaching text right here. But I think that what I'm sensing and feeling out of this text is that we are all on a very personal journey with Jesus. And that there are these road marks and there are these big points along that journey where we need community, where we need that network of care. But there are also moments on this journey where we need to be alone, where we need to do this on our own, that we need to work our stuff out with Jesus on our own. Because there are very few journeys that end with multiple people standing at the finish line. This is your race. This is your life. This is your journey. And each of us have an obligation to live that life in relationship with the divine. And there are going to be moments where we need to do that alone. And that can be scary. That can be a very scary thing. That can be a very rewarding thing. You can only be so vulnerable and so intimate in a group. I want you to think across your life in some of the moments where you were the most vulnerable or you were the most exposed. You increasingly become more vulnerable the less people that get in the room. And the closer you get with those people, right? If you're in a room with 500, you're obviously not going to start talking about your marital problems. If you're in a room of 100, you're obviously not going to start talking about your marital problems. Well, if you're in a room of 50, you might, if it's the right 50. But you're certainly not going to start having an intimate sexual experience in a room full of 50. There are varying degrees of vulnerability, and they get stronger with the less amount of people you get in the room. And so, by that very same logic, the most intimate relationships and experiences that we can have with Jesus are simply when we are alone. But I understand this is scary because I don't like being alone. And so, WellHouse Church, that's my question for us today. Very much so a philosophical one. Number one, why are we afraid of being alone? And second, how do we make the most of our vulnerable experiences with Jesus? These deep, intimate, connecting moments with Jesus, where we are all alone and we are looking to the divine to finalize the last pieces of our journey so that we can get to the next step, we can do the next thing, but we're battling out those final pieces alone in the intimacy with Jesus.